So, are people actually trying to say that there are too many distractions for the Rams to make another run? It's coming up next on Locked On Rams.
You are Locked On Rams, your daily Los Angeles Rams podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks for making Locked On Rams your first listen every single day, your team every single day, free and available wherever you get your podcasts. My name is Travis Rogers. This is a part of the Locked On Podcast Network. And while you're here, why don't you click that subscribe button so you get Locked On Rams in your feed every single day. You can also check us out on YouTube. Our Locked On Rams YouTube channel is a great way to consume the pod as well. Got a good one for you today. I want to talk about culture and why it is the single most important thing you can have on your team after talent. Talent's number one. Culture is a close number two. That's coming up in just a bit. And Andrew Whitworth says that genius is not the right word to describe Sean McVay. Well, that's coming up after just a couple of minutes. But let's jump right into it right now. Don't forget you can follow me on Twitter at Travis Rogers. You can do it on Instagram as well. Same thing, at Travis Rogers. Okay, so let's start with this. I was watching television, watching a prominent morning sports television show, and they were talking about the Rams, and they were talking about the offseason that the Rams have had. And the question that was posed and the question that was debated amongst the panelists was, do the Rams have too many distractions to make another run in 2022? I have worked in this business for a long time. I have worked on the television side in this business for a decent amount of time. I've worked in the talk radio space of sports media close to 30 years. And I understand the idea of creating content. I understand the idea of let's get a point and we'll talk about it. And we'll try to find if there's some there, right? That whether or not we have a topic, let's kind of knock this thing around. And sometimes it's a little thin. And sometimes it is one of those things that you're like, yeah, I got a little here, but maybe not enough. But it's kind of a slow day, so let's do it anyway. It's the way that the game works. I think everybody gets that. This is one of these things that I don't know how we got to this being discussed sincerely. I get it. The Rams are a great topic. They have great players. They're in a big city. They're the defending Super Bowl champions. They have a quasi contract disagreement with their best player in Aaron Donald. I get it. I get it. There's a little bit of a kernel of an idea there, but distractions. Think about what we're talking about. What are the two things that could qualify as distractions since the Rams won the Super Bowl a few months ago? I guess the Aaron Donald contract dispute would qualify. That's fair. And then maybe the idea of Sean McVay flirting with TV, that he mentioned that, I don't know if I see myself doing this forever, that broadcasting has appealed to me. We know that Sean McVay is telegenic. We know he's got a sense of humor. We know he's got this unbelievable recall. He's got the ability to translate football from a very specific football language into more of a layman's language, which is exactly what you're looking for on TV. That's why Tony Romo is as good as he is. That's why Troy Aikman is as good as he is. So it would certainly work. But here's the problem with the premise of the question about whether or not the Rams have too many distractions to repeat. Think about the two people, because really that's it, right? I mean, you've got the draft and you got to fill some vacancies, but that's true of every team in the NFL, not just the Rams. These are the two stories that we have talked about since the end of the season. Think about the two men that are involved in those two stories. If there's anybody that is less likely to be distracted by stuff, it's those two guys. That literally take maybe throw Cooper Kupp in there as tied for first place, right? That you've got Aaron Donald and Sean McVay. Are there any two people in the league that you would be less likely to believe could be distracted by the goal at hand than those two guys? I'm not saying that it's not true. Sean McVay probably did tinker with it. Hey, it might be not bad to do. What's the price? Not quite yet. And I'm sure Aaron Donald's like, no, I want this amount of money. I believe that those things are true. But I also believe that both of these men are guys that can walk right into a situation like head coach, like defensive tackle, and have their full commitment the second they walk through those doors. The second they walk out of, you think that Sean McVay is sitting there breaking down film, thinking about who he's going to have as his starting cornerback, thinking about which player might be a better fit if they lose an offensive lineman, and all of the decisions that a head coach needs to make? Do you think that he's not doing that job, that he's got his feet up on the desk, fantasizing about a potential role at Amazon calling games? Sean McVay, the guy that remembers every single play he's ever called in his entire life? I don't think so. I think he seems fairly locked in. I have interviewed Sean McVay myself on, I don't know, maybe a half dozen different times. It's probably more than that. It's probably closer to 10. I've had a handful of conversations with him on the radio and at parties and things like this, at the draft parties that were broadcast. He is one of the most intense individuals I've ever run across. And not that he doesn't have a sense of humor, not that he's not fun, but he is plugged in. He is intense. He is paying attention to everything all over the place. Okay? That is not a man who is going to be distracted by something shiny over on the side that he needs to go look at. Not going to happen. And then go ahead and take everything that I just said about Sean McVay and apply it to Aaron Donald. Has Aaron Donald ever been out of shape? No. Has it ever appeared that Aaron Donald is not doing everything he can on a football field to win? No. Does Aaron Donald show up ready to go every single time that ball is snapped? Yes. Distractions? Too many distractions to run it back? Now, they might not get as lucky. They might not play as well. They may get a little unfortunate with some injuries along the way. There may be some dip in production from some guys that you're not expecting. Maybe Matthew Stafford is a little bit, less spectacular than he was last year in the playoffs. Maybe Aaron Donald, instead of an A quadruple plus, he's just an A double plus. Maybe it happens. Distraction? These guys? Since when? This is not the Dallas Cowboys. This is not the Cleveland Browns. This is not these teams that constantly have noise in the air, that they're constantly dealing with stuff. The Arizona Cardinals constantly dealing. The Rams don't have any stuff. The second there's stuff, they move it down the line. We're not going to do stuff. We don't do stuff. We win games. Distractions. Come on, man. I get it. We got to come up with things to say, but let's talk about how these aren't distractions. That seems like something that makes a little bit more sense to me. Okay, so Andrew Whitworth is no longer a member of the Rams, but that doesn't mean he doesn't have opinions on what the Rams are all about, in particular their head coach, Sean McVay. That's coming up next. But first, let's talk about Built Bar, right? Built Bar granola. You guys have been asking for it, and Built delivered. Built granola bars are here. Built granola bars come in 3 unbelievable flavors. How about this? Chocolate peanut butter, chocolate coconut, that's for me, and white chocolate berry. And if you want to try all 3 flavors, you can get a mixed box at built.com right now. We've talked about the puffs. We've talked about the Built Bar. We talked about the birthday cake ones, the brownie, and now, of course, you've got the granola. My kids are all over all of these. Go to built.com right now to get Built granola bars right now. It's all the stuff, low calorie, high protein, low sugar. It's going to fill you up. You're going to feel good. It's going to make a good taste. All of these things, and it tastes wonderful. Go to built.com. Use the promo code LOCK15 and get 15% off of your order. One more time, that's promo code LOCK15 for 15% off at built.com. Okay, real quick, we have an important favor to ask all of you. We've put together a survey so we can learn more about our listeners like you and make your favorite Locked On podcasts even better. So this is your opportunity to tell us what you like, to tell us what you don't like about Locked On podcasts. Here's how you do it. You go to lockedonpodcasts.com/survey. Go there right now to get started. It's not going to take very long, and everyone that completes a survey can qualify for a chance to win one of 10 $100 Ticketmaster gift cards. So to take the audience survey, go to lockedonpodcasts.com/survey, and thank you very much for your help. Okay, so one of my beliefs, one of the things that I really pay attention to when I read something, when I watch something, when I listen to someone, is consider the source, right? That who is telling me this, who is reporting this, who is saying this. And I think that once you kind of start going through that, you're going to get a much better idea of what's real and what's not. If teammates are talking about a guy, that means something, right? If they're saying good things about a guy, it means he's a good teammate. If they're not saying anything, you can probably take that for what it's worth. If you have somebody that's a tremendous leader and is talking about leadership, you're probably going to want to listen. If you got a guy that's constantly the guy that's the fly in the ointment and the distraction and everything else, and he starts talking about leadership, you can probably let that one go because he doesn't know what he's talking about. So that's all to set up this. Andrew Whitworth was talking about Sean McVay and specifically talking about his leadership and why he doesn't think that McVay gets enough credit for everything that he's done. He was talking about everybody knows that he's a great offensive mind, but that's only kind of scraping the tip of the iceberg. Here's what he had to say on the Pivot podcast. Again, Andrew Whitworth. It's pretty wild. Walking into a building with Sean, I think the first thing that blew you away is you walk up and you realize how young he is, but also how dynamic he is. He's obviously a genius, and he obviously does a great job of putting defenses in tough positions all the time. But I think that it's kind of like when you sometimes as a player feel like someone gives you a compliment, but in some ways it's disrespectful because it doesn't tell the whole picture. I think Sean McVay is one of those people that the genius offensive guru is almost an insult, because what he really is a tremendous leader. He's one of the rarest people in owning a room and a moment in front of his team and being there to talk about things that really do matter in the day. Okay. He goes on to say, but it's about leadership, right? Let's talk about this for a second. I couldn't agree more with what Whitworth is saying. Number one, consider the source. Andrew Whitworth is widely considered one of the best, or was widely considered one of the best leaders in the NFL. He's retired now, but his leadership radar is highly attuned. This is a guy that can spend the vast majority of his career in Cincinnati, comes to LA, kind of as a, I'll play the last few years here. We'll see if we can get this thing turned around. And he becomes the heartbeat of the team. He becomes the spokesman for the team, the guy that's deeply integrated into the community. He's just been an unbelievable asset to the Rams and to the city of Los Angeles. And when he talks about leadership, pay attention. So when he says, hey, listen, we all know that he puts stress on defenses. We all know that he knows how to draw up a play. We all know that he knows play sequencing really, really well, and that he can set you up and burn you over here to go get you something. We get that. There's a lot of guys that can do that. There are a lot of guys that can drop an offense. There are a lot of guys that can go up to a chalkboard and write out plays and say, okay, this guy goes here, safety drops over here, we're going to hit him back. Okay, great. But can you get everybody to buy in? Can you get everybody to believe in your vision? Can you get everybody's attention and commitment to everything else in the building? And that's what Whitworth is talking about. Just talking about his football doesn't begin to describe what he is as a leader. He came in his early 30s on a terrible football team and came in and owned it from the opening day. I've told this story before. I'm going to tell it again. Because I am the host of the Rams pre and post game show, and my co-host and I, Kirk Morrison, Kirk played 9 years in the NFL. We were given invitations to come meet Sean McVay and drive up to the facility up in Thousand Oaks and get to listen to him talk a little bit, do a little bit of chalk talk. So it's me and Kirk and some guys from The Athletic and, LA Times and some other local papers, ESPN. They're just people there. And I don't know, 25 or 30 of us. And he's going through, kind of, puts the film on and, well, I want to move this guy over here. And then he kind of starts explaining his offensive philosophies and what he's going to expect from the team and his expectations for the organization. And again, I'm a 30-year radio guy. I've never been around NFL coaches in any meaningful way like this. And we're walking out of the building and I was pumped, just like, my goodness, like this couldn't be more different than what we just got done with Jeff Fisher. And I turned to Kirk, who again played 9 years in the NFL, and said to him, hey, are all NFL coaches like that? Are they all able to take a group of guys and men and women and have them in the palm of their hand in about 30 seconds and deliver a 25-minute, speech and everybody's hanging on every word? Is that what these guys do? And Kirk looked at me and said, no. No, it's not. I played a long time. I played high school football, college football, NFL football. I've been around this my whole life. I ain't never seen anything like that. It was that unbelievable. And that's what Whitworth's talking about. Saying he knows how to call a play. Well, sure. He's an NFL head. Josh McDaniels knows how to call a play. How'd that work in Denver? He goes back to Buffalo or to New England. Now he's going to get another shot with the Raiders. We'll see. But there's a lot of guys that know how to put together an offense, but that cannot control a room like that. And that's what he's talking about. And that's how he's been able to do what he's done with guys that some of them tremendous talents like Jalen Ramsey and Aaron Donald and Todd Gurley and these guys. And some other guys that were here long before he got there and turned them into a totally different thing, a totally different product, a much more dynamic one, a much more positive one. The culture change has been extraordinary since he got there. And that's all him, inside him, whatever gets that guy up in the morning, whatever gets him going, that magnetism, that ability to Get Aaron Donald's attention every single day and maintain it. Andrew Whitworth, Matthew Stafford, Cooper Kupp, Jalen Ramsey, right on down the line, all of them. And they're hanging on it, and they're believing it, and they're willing to go do because they believe in him. That's not just, hey, I know how to line up the tight end in the slot and make sure that he's open for that. That's football stuff. Leadership stuff, you might be able to learn some of it, but I think a lot of it is born in. And according to Andrew Whitworth, Sean McVay has about as much born in as anybody. Speaking of that culture and the way that it changes, great story about Aaron Donald and how he decided, you know what? I need to get back to work again. That's coming up next. Let's talk a little bit about our partners at BetOnline. They continue to be the number one source for all of your betting needs and sports information. You can find all the latest odds, news, and sports developments, including this year's basketball playoffs winding down. Steph is your finals MVP favorite right now, about even money. Major League Baseball scores, maybe hold off on that Angel thing I mentioned to you before, fights, and even the next NFL season. BetOnline is your continued source for all your sports wagering information, from live betting to playoffs, esports, and more. So head to the website today, or use your mobile device to learn more about the trends and action. Bet online, where the game starts. Okay, so we were just talking about Sean McVay and his ability to lead and his ability to set culture. Again, because the other culture was only here for a relatively short period of time. When the Rams came back from St. Louis, they set up shop in LA. Jeff Fisher's the head coach, and the roster was filled with guys that just seemed a little bit stale, right? Not that they weren't good football players. They had some good football players on that team, to be sure, but team felt stale, right? It just felt like it wasn't a particularly dynamic group of guys. Sean McVay changed it instantly. That he comes in and all of a sudden it went from, like Todd Gurley said, a middle school offense to, holy smoke, they're scoring 30 points a game. That Jared Goff was a guy that couldn't play dead to a guy that no one can stop. How in the world did that happen? And the answer was Sean McVay. It also changed because the culture changed. And Sean McVay is the leading reason why. But I want to read you a quote from Aaron Donald talking about Cooper Kupp and talking about how he got motivated. Aaron Donald became more motivated seeing what he and Matthew Stafford were up to. And what he said was, he's been that guy. This is his first year, and he really stayed healthy. If you watch the film, he's been doing the same type of stuff consistent. He came in as a rookie and was Mr. Consistent. You know, if you throw him the ball, we're good. He's going to catch it. He's going to make it happen. It's just he got the opportunity to play with a quarterback that they just vibed. I used to come in 6-something in the morning, and the two of them already are being there watching film together every single day, before and after practice. They motivated me like, I'm going to start coming in a little earlier to make sure. You know what I'm saying? That's what it's about. You talk about leadership. That they led me in a way they don't even know. That motivated me. I'm just saying they got a chemistry that was just different, and then he stayed healthy. Okay, so obviously Cooper Kupp staying healthy is terribly important. Matthew Stafford staying healthy is terribly important. All of those things, you know, health in the NFL is tantamount. Talent is number one. You got to have really good players. Matthew Stafford's a great player. Aaron Donald's a great player. Cooper Kupp's a great player. But this is the culture that I'm talking about. This is the culture that Sean McVay inspired and that guys like Cooper Kupp and Matthew Stafford and Aaron Donald have thrived in. If Aaron Donald is getting to the facility and he sees Cooper Kupp and Matthew Stafford in the film room already, and he's walking through the door with a cup of coffee in his hands or whatever Aaron Donald uses to get his day started, and he's like, wait, these guys are already here? I'm just walking in and they're already in the middle of a film session. I got to get to work. Nobody's outworking me here. I'm the guy that gets here first. I'm the guy that does the most. I'm the guy that makes sure that no one has a study advantage over me. I'm going to go do it. And this is the self-fulfilling cycle that self-perpetuating, I should say, cycle of, I'm going to work a little hard. Now you're not going to outwork me. And then all of a sudden you got a whole building full of people that are fully committed to what you're doing. And it starts with the head coach. And it starts with your best players. Aaron Donald, Cooper Kupp, Matthew Stafford. If those guys are through the door at 6:00 in the morning, and you're fighting for a job as a safety or as a backup offensive lineman or as the starting cornerback or whatever it might be, you better not be the last guy coming through there. You better not be the guy that has a meeting at 9 and you're strolling through the door at 8:58. That's not the guy. That's not the way we do things around here, because everybody in the NFL is good, right? Even the guys that we all bang our heads on the desk. I can't believe he did that. How stupid was that? They're all the very best at what they do in the world. The talent gap between the best team, we'll use the Rams because they're the defending Super Bowl champion, and the worst team, we'll use the Jacksonville Jags because, well, they're the worst team. It's like this. It's the smallest little gap. And all it takes is a little bit of bump in talent and a lot of bump in culture. And all of a sudden things again. Doug Peterson will make the Jacksonville Jaguars a better team. He knows what he's doing. He knows how to build culture. He knows how to get things together. He knows how to build a game plan. He knows how to build trust. He knows how to build camaraderie. He knows how to build culture. And that's what is the most important thing beyond your talent. Look, if I have Aaron Donald, I have an advantage over you. But if I have Aaron Donald and I can't get him to buy into what we're doing, or I'm not smart enough to surround him with the right pieces, it doesn't really matter how good he is. But if I got the best player and I've got great culture, you get what you get with the Rams right now, which is everybody trying to outwork each other, everybody making sacrifices, everybody willing to do whatever it takes to win a game, other players coming from other places saying, I want to be over there. Those guys win a lot, and it seems like they have a lot of fun doing it. That's culture. And that comes from the head coach. That comes from your best player. And that's what Aaron Donald's talking about. All right, that's going to do it for this issue of Locked On Rams. Make sure you click that subscribe button for your second listen. Make sure you're checking out the Locked On NFL podcast, our national NFL experts and insiders, keeping fans dialed in with the biggest stories and latest news from around the league, because an offseason doesn't equal a break in the action. Follow Locked On NFL every day on the Odyssey app, YouTube, and wherever you get your podcast. Until next time, whose house? It's Locked On Rams house.